One.
And welcome everyone to Brain Swap.
Howdy.
Where today we are taking your questions from the chat room. And I'm going to pull the microphone a little closer because for some reason I'm not on microphone
We
quite
can
right.
chew on the microphones.
There we go. Okay. But we want to keep the microphones. We don't want to chew them.
Oh, I don't have my cup of tea. I might run and grab that in a second.
Okay. All right. So today we are talking
You're on
about...
time.
Yes.
You are on time.
Absolutely. So welcome Desert Fox and... Whoop.
I will
there we go.
get that quieted down there.
Our
so
weekly
we don't
battle
double
with the video.
Yes.
So we've had a great question already from Liquidus. The Liquidus snake in the chat room.
Grab that tea.
Go right ahead. I'll just repeat the question.
Actually, I think that was from somebody else.
Oh, was it before? All right. Let me see if I can pull that up. So I believe the question was basically, what happens when members of a studio break off to form a new anime studio? So, for example, folks at Gynax split off to form Studio Trigger. What happens to the work and the stuff to be done? That's a good question. Now, as with so many things, the answer is it depends.
It depends.
I don't know of any pattern. I'll put it that way.
There's no set structure for the breakup.
Yeah, it all depends on what's going on.
I'll take the dishes.
I'll take the dog.
Oh, not the dog.
So, generally speaking, when folks split off from a company, it's because hopefully because they finish whatever their work they're working on, or it's because they're being asked to leave, right? So I'm not aware of cases, and there may very well be some, but I'm just not aware of cases where somebody will just leave in the middle of a production and kind of leave it hanging, unless that was a mutually agreed upon thing to do. So I'll give you an example. Lucky Star. The director of Lucky Star lasted, I think, 4 or 5 episodes, and then he abruptly left. And another director working at Kyoto Animation came in to animate. And not much was said, but he left, and he directed Haru. He was doing a lot at the studio, and he left the studio completely. So the implication was that they were unhappy with his work in some way, and he was asked to leave because you don't.
Ordinarily,
a director doesn't just leave in the middle of a production.
It's got to be a family disaster or something, and then they return after they take care.
Yeah,
so
something happened.
Mystery.
And then also telling is the fact he later directed Kanagi at another studio, and he then said some kind of negative things about the later season of Haruhi, and how that was handled, which implies
creative differences.
Exactly. Yes, maybe a little bit of bad blood. So that's the only case I know of in any detail where we have some idea of what happened.
There wasn't anything like he couldn't keep up with drinking with the boss. And
Could well be. Could well be. And also understand that at a lot of these studios, you rise up through the ranks. You may come in from other things, but you
got to learn the ropes
before
you can tell everybody how to pull them.
And the anime industry isn't that huge, so folks kind of know who's working where and who's doing what. And would you like to work on this project? Come over here, work with us.
Got to pay your dues.
And also, and this is another important element of this, is that most sort of line workers in anime aren't employees; they're independent contractors. So like most animators are just
their show's over. They got to look for work again.
Right. And, they may work with the same studio over and over and over again, but there may be a project in another studio. They say, well, I'll go over and work for them for a while.
I think something similar goes on with the American cartoons. Cartoon Network has a lot of people who work with them. But once their show is over, they're back to find more work. And so it seems like they work for Cartoon Network, but they're really contracted.
Exactly.
So there's always that slippery looking for the next project.
And the and animators can also they can follow directors more than they follow studios. So a Shoji Kawamori, for example, who did a lot of Macross, he did Escaflowne and Aquarion. There are animators who will just kind of follow him from studio to studio.
Like, that's great. It's like building a team and taking the team with you. Okay, we're going to play here this week and here this year and that year.
And it's one of the reasons why following a director can be rewarding, because you're not just following one person. You're following those people that person has built up over time and may have changed over time. You know, people may have dropped and added, but these are the people that he wants to work on this at one.
And that means they're already familiar with kind of the personalities and ways things work and don't work with different people within the process. And you say, I know he's good with this, but don't trust him with that. Give him all of this because he's fantastic on it.
Kyle Moore is a good example where he likes to have a big weekly meeting with everybody. To bring everyone in to assign shots. And he just prefers to have everybody around the same table talking back and forth and assigning things. One animator said it's because he has no other social interaction in his life. I think he was joking. But there was a certain amount of, he just works all the time. And so this is his chance to actually interact with the other animators he's working with. Otherwise, everyone's just kind of in their office working. Or at home. So
I suppose it gets everybody on the same page.
Right, exactly. Literally.
That's the vision. Of course, interpretation of it afterwards.
Sure.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, but it's nice to know you're gonna have a face-to-face check-in with the director every week. That's handy.
Let's see.
Yeah, and exactly, Desert Fox. That's why Gynax members will help out a trigger, because they probably left on good terms. You know, they said, okay, we're kind of wrapping this up. We're gonna go off and do our thing. And again, it being a small industry, you don't want to take anyone off because
who was somebody you're working with today who might be your boss next time around. You might be their boss, and who knows who's pulling who into what.
Exactly.
Stay on good terms with everybody. That's a good general policy. Anyway.
Yeah, very true. Let's see here. I'm not familiar with the Corey in the House meme. I'm lost. Sorry.
Close in.
Is Furry Curry 2 the most overhyped? That's certainly overhyped.
I haven't had my ear to the press, to the wires lately. Is it really getting hyped pretty big? I've been out of my condo, so I haven't seen if Adult Swim has been pimping it out or what.
Yeah, I haven't been seeing much of that, but definitely there's a lot of fan excitement about that, as is understandable. General thoughts on the lengthy production time of Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0.
Wouldn't that be 4.0?
They probably named it 3.0 plus 1.0 since I last checked. I don't know. But
7.52.
My general thoughts is I'm glad that he's taking the time he needs to do the thing he wants to do. You know, Anno is famously particular, and I'm glad that he is figuring out the way he wants to make it. And if people are annoyed at that, well, then that's more the fans' fault than his is. He can take as long as he wants on that. Unfortunately, he ain't 70 years old, guys. You know, he's young enough that he'll make it. That's not a problem. Have you seen somebody video on the parallels of Satsuki from Kill la Kill? And no, I have not. But that's interesting. So the idea of the protagonist from Kill la Kill is similar to, I assume you mean Oda Nobunaga, the great general. No, but that's a very interesting analysis. I may have to go back and watch Kill la Kill now, with that in mind. Did I ever read the last
Kill la Kill, but I haven't seen the other reference there. So. Yeah, we've got half on this side, half on that side.
Exactly. And then
this thing doesn't automatically.
It's not scrolling
That's
up.
Weird.
You have to go. Oh yeah, and do that. Did I ever read the last of Rurouni Kenshin? And if you did, what do I think of it? I have, in the sense, now I haven't read the middle. Basically, a friend of mine said, here are the last 2 volumes, read this. And I'd watched the TV show and so forth. And then I've since gone back and filled in, but I haven't read all the way up to that point. I was extremely impressed. I can't talk about anything that happens because it's all deep spoilers.
Well, now with Rurouni Kenshin, there were how many, but not the manga, but the videos.
So there's a 3-season anime TV series.
First 2 good.
Yes, first 2 good.
Last one
so
ignore.
Correct.
Because did the manga follow? Or?
No. So they seasons 1 and 2 caught up to the manga, and 3 is more or less. And again, I haven't watched it because people told me not to. I've just seen little bits and pieces. 3 is essentially all filler.
Oh, yeah.
They're just
Filler.
and apparently it's all silly filler. Like it's just,
it's
and by silly I just mean they just kind of came up with stuff for them to do.
It's not as
no
it's
real
not,
plot. Yeah.
But
So.
but with the manga, you've followed the last two.
So yeah, so the last two volumes of the manga is the end of the story, which has never been animated in that way. So we never got that animated ending.
The unwritten ending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it finishes all of the most important plot threads, and it does delve into the fundamental, and it does deal with that fundamental question of what happens when you refuse to kill, and people force you into that situation.
Just for the folks out there, the premise is
Kenshin is a former assassin who was so good that he would do basically one-hit kills. He was an assassin for a revolution in Japan, which occurred and succeeded. And he then essentially retires as an assassin. But one of the problems of being an assassin is that you make a lot of enemies.
It's like a gunslinger. Everybody wants to shoot you down and be the top dog.
Exactly. And he still refuses to kill. He just will not kill anyone. And it's in a very
but he still carries a sword.
Well, he carries a sword. He carries a reverse blade sword.
Oh, a reverse blade.
Yes.
So his forward blade is the back blade.
Exactly. So when he hits somebody with it, it's not going to kill them.
It'll hurt.
It'll hurt. It'll hurt bad.
But it won't slice through their everything.
And for those who think that sounds a little silly, one of the reasons for that is it's very difficult to balance. So if you're a swords person and both sides are dull, that affects how the sword swings. So you want at least one side to be bladed or to be sharpened.
The aerodynamics of the sword.
So there was some, in other words, there was some thought behind it. It wasn't just dumb. It wasn't just there to be flashy. And then the other side of that coin is that because it is reverse bladed, is that he can reverse it to cut things.
You want me to make what kind of katana?
Exactly. And there are. And I haven't dug into this historically. I believe there are at least stories of reverse bladed swords. They were made as test blades or things to play. And also when you weren't allowed to carry a sword, it was a way to carry a sword without carrying a sword.
According to the law, this is not going to.
Right. And indeed, in the manga, that's how he's able to carry it. He pulls it out and says, "I can't kill anyone with this. It's okay." But yeah, so it absolutely goes there with those things, and it does not compromise on that plot thread. So that is
this thing
really
does
awesome.
not want to.
It does not want to scroll. Wow, it's really unhappy.
I'm gonna hold it there.
Yes. So Evangelion 7. You cannot advance quickly. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Samurai X.
Yeah. So Samurai X is the OVA of Rurouni Kenshin. Basically, when it came over here, they said no one's gonna know what Rurouni Kenshin means. So we got to give it a flashy title, and they call it Samurai X. Which
now I don't necessarily associate it with Rurouni Kenshin.
Right. Yeah.
I got to remember that.
So be aware of that. And unfortunately, they use Samurai X for the TV movie of Rurouni Kenshin. So they kind of adapted some of the TV show into a movie, condensed it, and they call that Samurai X the movie, even though that's the TV continuity, not the OVA. So it gets complicated.
But I'm going to try doing this again.
Yeah, okay. So we'll try a different flow.
Scroll down.
Different flow. Okay.
Firefox.
Yep.
What are you doing to me, Firefox?
Can you just hold it right there for a second?
I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah, I hold it and it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just all right. So let's see here. What do you think of? So our chat room does not want to behave here on long series like Naruto and One Piece. Do you think they hurt the industry with so much filler and not enough story? So do long-running series with lots of filler hurt the industry?
Bleach, yes.
So here's the answer to that, and we'll get into that. Yes and no.
And no. Yeah.
They hurt the industry and they help it.
For something that somebody is binge watching, it definitely hurts. But if there's a long-running series on TV, like you're seeing it on Adult Swim every week, there may be people who are joining late. And they need that filler to kind of really get engaged. But if you've been watching it every week, it's very frustrating. So in one sense, the live broadcast, it does kind of help people catch up, get to speed, remind them, because it's been 18 weeks since I saw the episode that referred to something that should be current in my mind.
And also, I mean, often the filler isn't even...
sometimes it's just filler.
Yeah, it's just like, filler.
why is this fight taking so long?
Yeah. Apparently, there's an episode where Naruto turns into a girl for an episode. Like, yeah, I'm sure that's deep into the plot stuff.
Ranma.
Sure. yeah, pretty much. So here's the other thing. Most of the current crop of anime fans either got into it through somebody who got into Naruto, you know, or One Piece or whatever. You know, those are the gateway anime. So
gateway anime.
You know,
I gotta get my anime fix.
And they're the ones that are supporting the industry. They're you know, they're the ones that people are actually buying the stuff. So I think it's been very helpful in that sense, and that they've drawn a large number of fans who then have stuck with it. You know, a lot of them, not at all, obviously, but there are certainly downsides. One of the downsides, and this is something that we discovered back in the 90s, is that folks who watch Dragon Ball Z and they say, I really love Dragon Ball Z. What else is like Dragon Ball Z?
Yeah.
I want another 200 episodes of people fighting. I'm like, well, there's one or two other things, but it's not really the way most of it works.
Gotta have a twist. Gotta have something that keeps us excited.
And so that, you know, people will get into anime through Naruto and assume all anime is like Naruto, and that certainly hurts the industry. So that's you know, that is a downside. But I think, you know, there are good and bad sides. Now, the filler also is an issue that they seem to be addressing these days by doing seasons of anime. So they will do one season of Attack on Titan, and they'll stop, and they'll come back and do another season eventually, someday, maybe. Attack on Titan is definitely slow. There we go.
Sorry, I had to put it back in there.
Yeah, fair enough. How much is too much filler? That's a good question.
When I lose attention, when I start getting ticked, and I think, well, maybe I could be doing laundry, or for me, I mean, it's a relative kind of value, but yeah, there's enough to jog my memory is cool. But if you jogged my memory all episode,
what were we watching? Where there was I think it was the two of us. We were watching something, and there was a filler episode.
Stay with us, even though this filler.
But but they did something really neat.
It was different
to integrate it and make it make sense. I can't remember.
They did a good job with their fillers.
Yeah,
like, yes, this has some filler, but still.
Yeah, and then they were doing kind of callbacks and integrating. Well, I'll give you a great example of filler. Halfway through Kadocha season 1, which is a goofy sitcom. Most of the time, there's they do a filler episode which they present as a game show between various characters. So various characters go on to like a Price is Right style game show, and they're shown clips from the anime, and then they're supposed to reply back with, you know, what was the name of the person who showed up in the beginning of the scene, whatever.
That's exciting.
So that was fun, and you get to see how those characters reacted, and there's a whole joke. To give you an idea of the humor of Kadocha, one of the contestants is the author of the original manga. So it gets odd, really fun thing.
I think this is where we left off here.
Okay. Yeah, I would say Yu Yu Hakusho is pretty similar to Dragon Ball Z. Not identical, not massively similar, but definitely there are similars.
I would rather eat my F-150 to watch another filler.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, no, it's certainly an issue. There's a lot of that stuff.
Let's open it up over there.
Yeah, we're gonna try to fix this because for some reason we've got weirdness on our chat, and we'll see if we can we zoom. We can. Nice.
So I'll just let this roll over here, and then I'll read that one.
Yeah.
It's good to have a plan B. Always have a plan B. Sometimes a C and a D.
Yeah. Would you rather remaster an old classic series for the new generation, or update it with current animation? Possibly update the plot, aka Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. So interesting. Remaster the original animation or reanimate from scratch.
Ooh, That's a tough one.
That's
sometimes
really
both,
one, right?
if I
That's
could.
tough.
Yeah, I haven't watched Brotherhood because I wanted to see everything and just binge it. I really like the original, and everybody's said how wonderful Brotherhood is, so I can't wait to check it out. But then the idea of remastering something, especially if it's an old anime, coming back and revisiting it, didn't we hear somebody was thinking about something like that?
Oh, right.
Recently?
So the chief Gundam officer at Bandai said, and this is a few years ago.
Job title.
I know. Amazing. He wanted to reanimate original Gundam, Mobile Suit Gundam, for a new generation because it's just so hard to get people outside of Japan and East Asia to grok it with that old animation style, which I appreciate that.
Grok it.
I'd love to see, and obviously you have the issue that do you then go back and tweak things? Like famously, Yoshiki Tomino, the director of that, refuses to allow one episode of Gundam to air outside of Japan because it's so bad, in his opinion. So do you go back and say, well, we're going to redo it. What did you get wrong?
My heart feels that, originals are original. They're classic. They should never be tampered with. But at the same time, there are classic stories that have been told over and over again and become mythos. And people can retell the story and interpret it in a different way.
Exactly.
And that can be exciting as long as the original isn't, the different stories of, Ulysses and, different Greek mythology. And, the concept, the rough structure can stay there and you can change little bits of it. But I don't know. It's the idea of somebody coming back and redoing it can be exciting because you think of all the bands that go back into a song that was incredible and you're like, yeah, I forgot about that. And now I remember it. And their twist is different.
And there's some songs I like the cover better than the original.
Yeah, something. It
happens.
And I still respect the original because that was the inspiration that drew the cover.
Exactly. So Desert Fox asks, what's an anime you watch just to relax that you can rewatch over and over? Well, funny you should. What do you think about that, Evan?
Well, I find a very relaxing one that I could enjoy over and over and over again. Quiet Country Cafe.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it's just there's something in that just feels good.
Yep.
It's it does. I can relax into it. Now I watch other anime over and over again, but that's the one that I could like. Okay, yeah. How about yourself?
That's definitely one of them. No question. For me, because part of the problem is I don't rewatch anime. There's too much new stuff to watch.
There's so much new stuff, and I find myself torn. I want to watch something. I like this, but I know I need to get through some new stuff.
The other one that I would watch over and over are the Tenchi shows. The Tenchi Moya, the OVAs, the TV series. Those are because those are kind of formative for me. I just go back and just really.
Do you watch the whole series, or do you just watch a few episodes here and there? Yeah, that's what I do when I rewatch. I'll think, oh, I remember there was that funny scene. I want to watch that again. Like, Welcome to the NHK, or that's a fun one to go back and look at. And every once in a while, I'll pop in NGE or something. Galaxy Express, Galaxy Railways.
Oh yeah.
Movies I find easier to rewatch than the series because series is an investment in my time that is pretty deep. So I'll spot check stuff as Mango Dio. I would.
And actually, I'll go back and reread manga more than I'll rewatch anime. It's a little easier to just pull a manga off the shelf and just start reading it. So I recently went back and reread Yotsubato, also known as Yotsuba over here. That was fun. My favorite mecha anime series. I don't have favorites.
Which of your children would you save
Gundam.
if the house was on fire?
It's Turn A Gundam. It really probably is Turn A Gundam. I would rewatch that. Some of that not too long ago. That is
upside down A's.
Yep, we'll have to watch that soon.
Yeah.
Actually, now that you've seen original Gundam, you could watch Turn A. There are some callbacks to other shows, but they're very minor. That'd be that's gonna be an interesting watch. Yeah, we should watch that.
The Club.
After
yeah.
And we can get away with the pointless nudity in the first episode. I mean, literally, they're just walking by a woman who is sunbathing nude.
Well,
that's the shot. Okay.
Welcome to the NHK. Is a neat show.
Oh, nice. My favorite
Miyazaki movies.
Yeah.
Movies are much easier to rewatch.
Yeah. Although, be careful.
Some of them.
Miyazaki once had a mother come up to him and say, "Thank you so much for making your movies. My children watch one of your movies every day," and he was horrified.
Every day.
And he said, "No,
go out and play."
Right? So maybe once a year. Explore. They should be off enjoying their life. Definitely do that. So that's kind of a interesting twist on that. I watched the first episode of Iron-Blooded Orphans and enjoyed it so much I wanted to wait until it was done, and so I would do that.
Oh, what's this one? Yokohama Kadashi,
also known as Quiet Country Cafe. Yep.
Yeah. But reading it.
Yeah. So and the manga
is translated or
fan translated? Yes.
Fan translated.
Yes. I don't think it's been released over here.
Maybe I gotta.
Yeah, it's cool.
If it's fan translated, though, I'm not going to see it at my local manga stand. No. As if there's such a thing.
Yeah, no kidding. Blue Seed. There's a classic.
Blue Seed.
Nice. But
nothing.
It's also fun going back and watching shows that you watch as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Or long ago in our cases. And seeing if they not so much hold up, but if they're like what you remember them being. I go back occasionally and watch Voltron, which was one of my that was my favorite cartoon as a kid. And going back and it's weird because it's one of those things where I'm like I can't not like this. But it's so ingrained in me. I can repeat the lines, and I sometimes do in like real life. A little geeky, but that's just but you can watch it from a more practiced eye and understand how it was done, why they were doing the things they were doing, which is fun.
I like to see if I catch the same sort of fantasy into it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also fun going back and figuring out why something appealed to you in the first place. What were those elements that really sort of worked for you?
I'm gonna think about that next time I watch Galaxy Express. Because maybe it was just the sheer awe of just. I'm a child. that guy's mom is posted on the wall.
My! It's pretty.
But I had some growing between my first seeing of that and my second.
And the cool thing about those shows is you get to see, I think one of the really fun things about Galaxy Express is that it is big space epic storytelling. It doesn't care about its technology. It doesn't try to explain why there's a train flying through space. It's a great image.
Engine is just the coolest engine. There's no worry about how the science works. It does. Yep. That's all you have to know.
It's one of those things where you just kind of go and you kind of enjoy it. But
Ghost in the Shell is another fun one.
Yeah. And Ghost in the Shell is one of those movies that does reward rewatching.
And I could watch that again and again.
Yeah, there's a surprising amount of depth in that.
I think that really lends to what's a great anime. If you can watch it again, and still enjoy it and find something new in it, that says to me a great anime.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Master Chief Snake just mentioned something that you talk about favorite anime series. Or favorite mecha series. In terms of the mecha series that I enjoyed the most, I would probably have to say Super Robot Wars OG The Inspectors, I think was the name of it. 26 episode series. So those not familiar with Super Robot Wars, have you heard of Super Robot Wars?
Oh, just a bit now. Okay. That sounded like something I'm trying to jog my memory is multiple universes kind of building on this. So
originally a video game where they started licensing mecha series to show up in the video game, and it just licensed everything, and it just kept on licensing more and more shows, and so it became kind of a celebration of the mecha genre. When they went to do animated series out of it, obviously they couldn't license all the anime characters to show up and voice acting and all that. Although they show up in the video game, but it's a little easier. So the anime series, and this one in particular, is just a pastiche of like every mecha cliche plot point, story element, setting, musical cue, mecha design of the past like 20 years. It's all thrown together.
Wow.
And they tell a fun story with it. Like it actually goes somewhere and characters go, but just recognizing, oh, that's that thing from Gundam Seed. Oh, that's that thing from here. That was just great fun as a mecha fan and seeing just how it evolves.
Oh, the research it must have taken to create that.
Yeah.
That must have been fun.
Yeah, exactly. I have not read the manga for Kodocha. For what it's worth, you're not going to sit through all 101 episodes because only the first 50 were ever really translated, either fan or otherwise. The only translation of the second 50 episodes or 51 episodes is like a Hong Kong English translation that's basically unreadable. And I've looked. Maybe it's out there, but that's the only one I know of, and you just
Google
can't tell
Translate,
what's going on.
help us.
Yeah, it's terrible. So you only have 50 episodes to get through for Kodocha, and you get that nice dark ending.
I can echo, yeah, Carl. Those were staples.
Oh yes, He-Man,
Transformers,
Thundercats. Yep.
What was the one with Ukla the Mott?
Oh, Thundar the Barbarian.
Thundar the Barbarian.
Yes.
I remember the comet passing by and
oh yes,
the cracking.
Dun 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 dun. I recently watched that entire show.
Yeah,
I found it on DVD somewhere. I went every single episode.
Oh wow.
And it's like 20 episodes or something. It's not that bad.
It's a short series.
Yeah, it's relatively short. Yeah. Let's see here.
Do you find it hard?
Game Escape, Area 88, and Kaiji the Gambler deals with protagonists who are forced by larger economic interests to participate in a kind of barbaric sport. Is this something that other anime have taken up? Definitely. I'm trying to think of good examples. Certainly forced to participate in barbaric sport. You have the trapped in a school or trapped in a situation where everyone's trying to kill each other. Dead Man Wonderland, things like that. Forced by larger economic interests. I'm not thinking of a lot of examples. Most anime protagonists are teenagers. They don't really have economic issues, larger economic issue like that. Now,
there's a few. I'm thinking of the family in Kill la Kill is kind of like they're on. They're not doing fine. But as far as a theme, it's protagonist forced to sell the family back. Well, Speed Grapher I think had elements of that where you see the class struggle and the desire for money and power in Tokyo run rampant, and the desire for, but that's more of a greed-directed financial rather than like hard times. But there's some episodes where people are sold into, they run up their debts, like Combat Butler, Hayate.
Oh yes,
Combat
right,
Butler.
yeah.
So he's impoverished to the point where he's become pretty much destitute. His parents kind of abandoned him to their debtors, and so I think there's a few, but as far as
it's certainly not a those combination of things don't often come up that much.
Speed Grapher.
And the Pet Girl of Sakuraso has that kind of they're not it's not a barbaric sport, but he's destitute and going to an art college, and he's forced to go into the crazy person's dorm because he's keeping too many cats. You're not supposed to keep cats. So that is one of those things. But we did not. Again, not really tournament setting as much. Do I remember the final decision that Nausicaa made towards the end of the manga? Oh heck yes. Definitely a bold move. Definitely, I wouldn't say unexpected though. I found it to be a inappropriate decision. It wasn't the one that I thought she would make, but I thought it was definitely on the table. And I could see why she made the decision, and it definitely, I definitely understood where she goes, and I can't describe any more of it because it's massive spoilers to how that story goes. It is not what you see in the movie. The movie doesn't get anywhere near that ending, just in terms of the amount of plot. But yes, there is a decision there that is surprising about where those things go.
Akon. Polly.
Oh, Akon. Nice. Very cool. So I love Fisher asks, I love horror and sci-fi.
Yes, I was thinking about that.
See a lot of sci-fi anime. You think that horror will ever make a reemergence in the near future? I mean a big reemergence. I don't think so, because it's never been a big thing in anime. There's never been a time when there were tons of horror.
I would like to see suspense, because the term horror can kind of spill over between sort of a gore and suspense,
right.
and it's a larger category. So in that respect, I would like to see some more suspenseful stuff, more mystery, and I could almost say that Death Note had that elements of that, and that was pretty neat, and it had a lot of popularity, but those kind of things, if they became too common, then I think it would lose its flavor. And so having a few here and there kind of spices it up when you get too much cutesy stuff.
So we're past 10, so I can relate this story. So I stumbled across a video the other night. It's anime, technically it's animated. It's not for kids. And the plot is that a guy gets a certain videotape, VHS tape to take home, which is the subject of this, urban legend that when you watch it, you die. And he watches it, and a girl crawls out and says, "Hi, I'm Sadako from The Ring. I really need to have sex with you." And what's going on? He says, "Well, the problem is nobody uses VHS tapes anymore. And so the only way for me to survive as this spirit is to do something that's popular, and so I have to make a sex tape now. That's the only way I'm going to actually have relevance."
Get posted onto the
exactly. So, like, that's hilarious. That's
that is
just someone thinking a little bit about that.
I like
thing.
that.
It's just really funny.
That's funny. Good twist on the whole story.
And guess what they do? It's that kind of a thing. But it was I laughed. I was like, that's sweet, or that's just funny. Let's see here. Yeah, so they're definitely horror series. Another was a popular horror series recently, which I haven't seen yet, but I would like to at some point. So yeah, and then of course all of the Higurashi When They Cry anime from 5-10 years ago, which were cute girls killing each other, basically, more or less. And so the idea behind that was the guy did a romantic visual novel, but with a horror twist. So it has a setup as a regular sort of romantic story and all these characters, and you discover there's a lot more going on than you think, and it gets very dark.
I wonder, what if we took this episode and turned it on its head and asked our viewers some questions, like what do you guys think about sort of limited private get together to check out some episodes of anime and discuss as a group particular episodes after watching them together?
Yeah, so we have this idea, and that is that we want to do a sort of an anime club where we get together online and talk about anime. So we'll actually watch it, we'll stream it,
audio, finally.
Exactly. And then afterwards we can talk about it. Some of you longtime regulars will remember something that we did kind of like this a few years ago, and I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. The thing is with YouTube, if we did the audio, we'd run into all right. If we do it on YouTube, they flag us and pull us down. But if we have a private meeting, invite friends, there's not a problem. Then afterwards we could chat and maybe see how things go. And who knows?
JoJo Bizarre's Adventure 2012. I think not. JoJo's is awesome, but I don't want to subject my brain to that just yet. So Game Escape has an excellent question. Want to know thoughts on Otaku no Video, as in the actual anime Otaku no Video, now that it's being re-released on Blu-ray, or released on Blu-ray, I suppose, in English for the first time. It's been released on DVD, but not on Blu-ray before. Game Escape calls it a foundational text of modern consumer culture. That's an interesting point.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah. So what were your you saw Otaku no Video, I guess, last year at Otakon?
Yeah. I'm trying to. I keep trying to remember, but all I can remember is Train Man because I had such fun. Yeah, I remember I enjoyed it and I wanted to get a copy of it, but at that point it was still, I think.
Yeah, it was out of print.
Out of print. Yeah. So at some point I want to get that again, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so, I will bring over the Blu-ray because I backed it, so I will have it here.
Woohoo! Hackers.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Support.
One of those things are like, yes, I'm getting that. So the I think that's a really interesting point, that it's about consumer. It's definitely about consumer culture and kind of a critique thereof, because the main character does become an otaku and kind of suffers for it. You know, he loses his other friends and he loses the girl, and he loses his life, but he doesn't care because he's watching anime. And that's fun.
There's hope. I got the girl.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, there we go. So yeah,
she likes anime.
Yeah. It can happen, guys.
It can happen.
But yes, it is certainly commentary on that. I think so. Talking to a video is certainly brilliant and amazing in terms of the storyline and so forth. I think what's also really interesting about Talking to a Video is that ending. And kind of spoiler alert for those who haven't seen You're Talking to a Video ending. I won't go into too much detail. But depending on how you watch that ending, and it's where they all go off into space. Think of what that might be a metaphor for. When a bunch of characters get together and they all kind of smile at each other and they all launch off into space together, as is their dream, even though you know that's not technically possible.
The vision,
well,
the shared dream,
they're dead.
The liftoff, the next world.
Yeah, exactly. So there's an implication there. One interpretation is that they're so delusional that this is how they're kind of dealing with something big going on. I don't know. I don't think it's suicide. But I think that they are. They're now old, right? And we see that they're old, and they're about to pass on, but they get they're able to recapture that passion of their youth through that shared experience. And it's sweet because it's a celebration of saying these are their dreams. This is where they were trying to go.
So this is the fast forward into their kind of future, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. Check it out first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's occasionally strange things are dealt with in anime, like the concept of suicide, but an afterlife, a future. It's interesting to consider different things. Definitely not suicide though. Don't think of that.
I don't think it's that.
No.
So Liquidus asks, does it seem true or kind of a myth when at one time I heard someone who studied Disney animation mention US animation tends to go with simpler detailing in order to make it easier to have smooth animation, while anime tends to sacrifice smooth fluid movement for artistic details, excluding high budget stuff like films or Gundam Tenchi OVAs.
I must defer to Dr. Anime.
It's true. You look at Cinderella, you look at Beauty and the Beast, you look at Belle and Beauty and the Beast, you look at those characters, and they are dramatically simplified. Now, anime characters are simplified too, but you have all that hair detailing, and you have all those. Look at an anime character's eyes. I mean, all little reflections and all that stuff. I think it's absolutely true.
And if you get a chance, slow down an anime, do some still frames, and compare it with the manga. The manga, they go into such detail. If they drew anime the way they drew manga, the budget would be unbelievable, but the product would be just so rich, it would be hard to watch. I mean, it's incredible the amount of work that goes into manga.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I mean, one of the reasons they simplified is because it would be just visually overwhelming. It just doesn't work in animation. Animation needs simplification so that you can see it in movement.
And sometimes if you get too hung up on certain details of it, you miss sort of the flow of the story. I've seen a few things where I'm just so hung up trying to take in all the detail that I'm not paying attention to the story and the dialogue. I'm like, oh darn, rewind it. Okay.
And a good example of something that kind of hits that goes right up to the edge of that. If you've seen the recent R-Type animation, so there's a video game called R-Type. It's one of these side scroller things, and this guy animated a like 7-minute fully animated short film set in that R-Type universe, and it's gorgeous. It kind of hit the internet a week or two back. And there's just huge amounts of detail in it, and it can be a little overwhelming visually just because there's so much stuff being thrown at your eyes. The guy's done a couple of animations. He did an amazing TIE Fighter film, again in the anime style, and it's just a squad of TIE Fighter pilots all blowing things up. It's really cool.
You know, that reminded me of some US animation.
That's glitching for other people too. So.
Oh, good. I'm glad we're not the only one having issues with the chat there.
Yep.
I like all animation, Japanese animation especially, but some US animation like Super Jail have openings that are different every time, and they are so detailed, and there's so much is going on in a very short period of time. I always want to rewind and watch all the little noodling that the artists have put in of strange, bizarre scenarios, and just trying to take it in all at once is tricky.
Yeah. So. A good example of where a U.S. studio having fun with that is that The Simpsons would occasionally ask other folks to do special opening animations for The Simpsons. And so I'm trying to remember who did them, but they did some really beautiful and odd opening animations for The Simpsons. And they asked one, I think it was a Japanese animator, to do it. And to animate it in the Simpsons style, but it opens up into a giant, actually may not be, anyway, into a giant factory of Asian people hand painting Simpsons cells. And like murdering unicorns and using them for the blood, for the ink, and just all this, and everyone's like in chains, and it's horrible. And it just goes on and on and on. It's just really funny. With it's one of those things where obviously they spend a lot of time on it, so there's dozens of characters and all sorts of things going on, and it's
simultaneous.
Yeah, this is really they really had fun with that one.
Oh man, that's funny.
What was the longest hiatus Miyazaki took before coming back? That's an interesting question. So a couple of years, certainly. It was, I think, a couple of years between most of his films, actually. But like Nausicaa to Castle in the Sky was 4 years, 84 to 88. And then Kiki's, and 3 years to Kiki. And granted, I mean, obviously you're working during that time, some of that. But it's usually a few years in there. But yeah.
Hey everybody, don't tell Brent this. Ask him when he's going to publish the next edition of his book.
What book?
What book?
How long till his next after Mononoke? Well, he made a movie out. He's made lots of movies after Mononoke. I think he said all he wants to say after Mononoke. Somebody asked actually a question about that. Where was that? About Nausicaa versus Princess Mononoke. We're seeing that up here.
There. Yeah.
If Princess Mononoke had a manga, do you think it would have gone around the path as Nausicaa? Well, I think Princess Mononoke basically did. I think that's the point of Mononoke, is that it addresses those, it takes those storyline elements and moves it into a new context, but comes to the same basic answer, which is that, it's the answer you see in the movie without getting into spoilers.
Treat the earth good.
Yeah, treat the earth good. Don't be dumb about how you treat the earth, and such.
Sky.
No, I mean the height. Oh, okay. So, Hudson Sky came out at 86. Oh, okay. Right. I thought Kiki was 91. Huh, okay. That's interesting. That's weird.
What is your book called? And what is it? What is
I
it
don't.
about?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Book? What book? I don't know what you're talking about.
Dr. Anime.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I might be I might be working on a book, possibly. It would be a long way away from being ready if I was. Hayao Miyazaki is fine with the word anime. He doesn't like his movies being called anime because, in his opinion, they're not anime. They are film animation, but done in kind of his style. In his view, anime is that cheap TV stuff. Basically.
So budget makes a big factor in that too. So would he consider that more of an insult to?
Yeah, he does.
Anime. I am a visual artist.
Right. It's like how some people get caught up in the word cartoon.
Cartoon.
You know, and they wouldn't want to call their animated film a cartoon. It's kind of that general
animation.
Would it be interesting if Anno directed Rurouni Kenshin? It would definitely be interesting. Yeah. That would, interesting wouldn't begin to describe it. Absolutely. With such a sophisticated character. And I think he could absolutely do it. I mean, Anno finds those sorts of characters and those sorts of stories very interesting. I mean, he cut his teeth on shows like Ideon and Gundam. So he'd love that. So I've not watched Iron-Blooded Orphans yet. Just episode 1. I really enjoyed what I watched, but I haven't gotten into it yet. So I cannot recommend it, but I've heard nothing but good things about Iron-Blooded Orphans. So it seems like something. And from what I watched of episode 1, there doesn't seem to be a lot of sort of references back to other Gundams. So I think it would be a good one to start with if you're not familiar with Gundam. You can certainly try.
I'm curious. What was the reference to Ergo Proxy there?
What would you consider Ergo Proxy? What would Miyazaki consider Ergo Proxy to be? Anime. I mean, in his view, all those shows are cheap, essentially.
Although I really did like Ergo Proxy.
Yeah. And again, we're thinking purely in terms of sort of naturalism and smoothness of animation. That's just kind of how he sees things from what I've read and understand of his works. That's his thing. And I mean, he got his start in TV animation, so he gets it.
Oh, how would one aspiring mangaka self-publish, promote their work? In the US or in Japan?
Yeah.
Japan has, of course, Comiket and all the big comic markets.
Yeah, you'd either go to Comiket or one of its siblings, or you would start submitting stuff to the magazines. Yeah, and they have all their contests.
Now, here in the US, there's a lot of self-publishing, and we've encountered a number of different folks who are at different levels of doing that, where they will self-publish and get a booth at an anime convention. And that seems to be an interesting way in getting the word out and publicizing it. Of course, there's a difference between publishing it for print and publishing it on the web. Once it's published, eventually it can get out there, but getting a return that helps keep the cycle going is kind of tricky. But it's a trade-off between getting a name and getting it out there versus making money. And so and as you begin, you kind of have some trade-offs that you need to make for promotion. So
I would say what did was it Coy Doctorow who said my enemy is not copyright, it is
my stomach needing to be fed.
It is obscurity.
Obscurity can be worse than copyright infringement. Let's say you have perfect copyright control, but you don't sell any copies. Because nobody knows your name.
And his point is not that to ignore ownership, is to say that it is much more important when you're not known.
Than copyright infringement.
When you're getting started, get your word out as much as possible in as many areas as possible, as opposed to being too worried about money. I would say
don't do it for money.
Somebody was talking about this in the tabletop game industry, where they said they quit their job so that they could make a living writing tabletop board games and role-playing games. And pretty much everyone else said, don't do that. Even people who do make a living off of it said the odds of actually making a livable salary right out of the gate are essentially nil. So I would say focus on getting your word out there, submitting to contests over here, putting your stuff on DeviantArt, putting your stuff out there, get on social media. I think those are all good things to do.
Well, one of the best things you can do is periodic releases, because people will start to follow eventually and expect, hey, you know, we want to see what happened next. And that's always exciting. But yeah, just like voice actors, very few of them can earn a living doing anime. They have to supplement it with other things. And so definitely keep it going, but remember that it may not be self-sustaining.
It probably won't be. Very few people are able to do that. So scrolling up, Kenshin. Yes, excited about Only Yesterday coming out in the US next month. That's a wonderful Ghibli film. Fisher asks, with the superhero craze, do you think a Japanese take on our superhero genre? What do I think about a Japanese take on our superhero genre? I.e. superhero anime like Batman or Superman. So, American style superheroes, but in a Japanese context, I guess would be the twist there. That's Dragon Ball Z, I think. You know, Goku is basically Superman, just in kind of a Japanese fantasy world. I think that's how they do it. They retwist it into their sort of versions of that. I think Kenshin is kind of a superhero. You know? But
do people in Japan pirate American cartoons?
Yep. Oh yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
Definitely. To answer your question, is Macross about girls giving power-ups through singing? Yes. That is basically the plot of Macross. In most Macross, not necessarily girls, it can be boys too. But yes, you get, so Macross is one of those, one of the elements of Macross is the idea that music has tremendous power, and part of its power, it can be weaponized, essentially. And okay, so kind of spoilers, but this is a classic series, and it's good to understand where this comes from. The idea is, and again, this doesn't really spoil plot stuff. It's more like the lithium crystals power the Enterprise. So the idea is that there are that there was an ancient culture in the universe that had its own form of culture, and it originated lots of other races in the universe, including ours and others. And the idea is that those who come across that culture are strongly impacted by it. It is it kind of worms its way into your brain, if you will. And the main characters discover this in Macross and use it against their enemies to disorient them effectively. It doesn't affect humans because humans have culture. Yeah, and we've developed a somewhat similar culture in some ways. Other races that haven't are affected by it strongly, and so that's a theme often. Yeah, cool. But yes, in Macross, it's One Punch Man is
again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, One Punch Man is absolutely a superhero story set in Japan with Japanese stuff. And shonen.
I remember Paulie left a message in one of the rooms that was like after a lot of folks had left. So that would be fun to check out your stuff sometime.
There was something else in here that we were talking about.
Did we miss some questions? I'm sure we missed some questions here and there.
Yeah, there was something else I wanted to dive into more in terms of the story, but I think that kind of.
Well, I'm curious now. You were telling me about a new type of model, a Gundam model that was different than
the real grades.
The real grade. I'd never heard of this. So is this something that they recently started doing?
It's a couple years ago.
So
it's basically a new type of Gundam model kit called the real grade, which combines the smallest size of the Gundam model kit with the universal skeleton frame of the sort of medium grade kits with the level of detail of the perfect grade kits. And they're using new materials, new material science in it to make all that work. And they're still relatively inexpensive. They're still in the $30 to $40 range.
Yeah, that's a good price point.
Absolutely. And I haven't built one yet, but I definitely want to.
Lots of detail.
So that is definitely going out there.
A new type.
Yeah.
What's this?
A new type. Are you asking what new type means? Because we certainly answered that question. Have I watched Ocean Waves? Yes, I have. I do not consider it to be an underrated Ghibli film. I consider it to be an appropriately underrated Ghibli film. I hated that movie. I did not get why anyone would. I shouldn't say I don't get why anyone, but yeah, that was a
how often has Miyazaki retired?
I think 5 times.
Yeah. So for those of us who are kind of waiting to see if this is a real this time retirement.
Yeah. Guy has red hair, becomes a tactician against the British Empire, basically in space. I mean, unless you're thinking of, I don't have a red-haired.
I'm trying to remember.
A tactician against British Empire sounds like Code Geass, but he doesn't have red hair. I don't know. That does not ring a bell at this point. She asked what new type. So in the Gundam universe, certain people who are born in space are also born with certain precognitive abilities, would be a good way of putting it.
New types? New types?
So they are a new type of human. That's new types. And so they're able to predict things not quite before they happen, but they have faster reflexes. They have enhanced sensitivity to other new types. So
they can draw out all the conclusions 8 steps before most folks would start thinking about it.
And those abilities just so happen to be very useful in combat situations. So they tend to become weaponized very quickly, but that's not the intent. And one of the so 2 sides to this. One is that it becomes a big plot element in Gundam series in the main universe as to what it means to have these abilities. The fact that these abilities are appearing in humanity has certain implications for where humanity is going as a species. Separately, so as otakudom evolved and matured, they claimed this term of new type for themselves. In fact, speaking of otaku no video, it all comes together. Toshio Okada, who is the Ota King in Japan, he's the guy that it was all based on. He says that otaku are new types. Because what otaku do is that they analyze at very high frame rates, animation, stories. They analyze and study these things, and look at the things in great amounts of detail. And they can, these are the people who can watch an anime series and say, that is by that animator, that shot's by that animator, that shot is by that person.
Building it into the framework of grokking the whole thing as they take it in.
Absolutely. And he said, the ability to analyze, especially animation at that level, is a remarkable mental feat.
That just the visual processing.
Yeah. And so his view is that that otaku of that mold, kind of that era, and that idea that we're not just fans, we live and breathe this stuff, kind of fall neatly into that new type category. And so fans have kind of taken that on as, I'm a new type. We are new types because because we're able to do kind of things that most people don't do, and can't do, if you will. But yes. Gundam is pretty awesome. Gundam is, and I agree, D. Why get things like Funko Pops when you can just get a model? I mean, why get a little stand thing when you just build the thing? And then you have all the control over
Part of the fun is building it. At least for me.
Exactly.
Although
that's my thing.
Yeah. Although I have heard people will build them and sell them, and so
true.
That cuts out the middleman.
Yeah, exactly. At some point I'll get into custom build Gundams. That'd be fun. But yeah, so Miyazaki retired after every film, starting with Princess Mononoke. To give you an idea, Princess Mononoke was his last film, and then he's done other movies since then. So that's kind of the way things are. People just kind of we have to take these things with a grain of salt.
Yes.
And to be clear, we're not saying he will make a new movie.
We're just saying
don't cut him out.
His trend has been movie, retired, movie, retired.
Polly asks, who started the tradition of illustrating the first 2 pages of the manga and the rest of the illustrations in black and white? I assume you mean the first 2 pages in color. And then black and white. I don't know.
Somebody who wanted to tease us.
Well, I mean,
money.
Actually, I think that's more of a US thing. I suspect that most of those things, they started colorizing things for the American market so that when folks would start flipping through it, they'd see color and they'd, oh, okay, and buy it, and then they'd make it the rest of it in black and white.
A colored cover will probably sell better than something in black and white.
Exactly. So I think that was more of a marketing tactic to appeal to the American fans.
The cost of printing color is expensive.
Yeah.
And the techniques in comparison to black and white.
Well, and as to why it's black and white, it's because there's no way you can draw 13 pages of manga every week.
And colorists, people who are doing shading and color matching, it gets expensive.
Yeah.
And that would have to be paid for somehow, so it would get passed on. But if you do a couple of plates, it's not completely undoable. It's not completely expensive.
And usually that's done for the tankobon, the paperback edition. So it's all black and white. Then when they go back to do the actual book publishing release, then they can do a few pages in color.
And that's why it's amazing when you find something that's fully in color. It's like
Ghost in the Shell. Well, no, that's not Ghost.
Lane didn't. Wasn't there? No, was it Lane? It wasn't Lane.
Not Lane. No.
What was it? There's a number of things out there though. But yeah, it's fun to see.
Yeah. I should build a full-size Valkyrie. That's a bit outside of my skill range at this point. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But that'd be pretty cool.
City Hunter anime.
They colorized Scott Pilgrim? Dang them. Blast them.
What?
Sacrilege. And they shouldn't do that.
City Hunter anime. Do you know what that
I've heard of it. Haven't watched it. I don't think so. I think I know what we're talking about. Yeah. Well, again, it's not expense, it's time. It's the fact that they publish 13 pages of Naruto every week. There's no time to color it. And because again, it's not just a matter of if you had other people there to color it. It's the fact that
approval
that last
back and forth.
That last black and white page is done. The day of publication.
Gotta get it out.
It's sent out so that you can't just then send another half day coloring it. So they're down to the wire on those
closer
things,
to the newspaper rather than the
which is why it's printed on newspaper. I mean, that's
the print is.
So that's and there is no market for color manga. It's been that way for so long. Nobody cares. Nobody needs it. It's popular enough.
It's had in Japan.
US is different. But the US market has gotten. I mean, the US manga market has gotten to the point where we're all used to it. So there's really no need.
However, I mean, if there's a market for it, if they can still turn a profit, I mean, it's going to take longer. It's going to cost more. There are going to be more people involved. There's going to be back and forth, and then trying to get color matching is a lot trickier than black and white matching. You can do pretty easy black and white matching when it comes to full color. These inks, those inks. It's not the perfect Coca-Cola brand red. It's got to be. Oh, why is this character who is always wearing yellow? Why does he look orange on this episode? And yellow, so there's some tricky stuff that goes into it, and all that costs either time and money, and that's gotta. But if there's a market for it, if you guys say, hey, we'll pay for it.
yeah, that's the thing. I'm sure if there was huge pent up demand for color manga, somebody would have made it and made money off of it, and it would be a big deal by now. So it's
content is king.
Yep. there are some folks who want it, but probably not quite enough.
The special edition.
Yeah, and you're right. Quiet Country Cafe had some chapters in color that were gorgeous, absolutely amazing.
What was Quiet Country Cafe done at the time that they had cells?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to hunt some cells.
Yeah, good
backgrounds.
luck.
Get some backgrounds from that. The light post sticking up from the water.
Yeah, it's hard to find backgrounds. They usually don't sell backgrounds as series. So they don't say this is a background from series X. It's just here are backgrounds. You have to kind of figure it out from context, which can be really hard for most anime. You don't really know. Don't American comics usually get released monthly and are very short per issue? Yes. It's 11 pages for a full color American issue, as opposed to what?
That much.
52 pages a month, black and white in Japan. So exactly, Sophronia. That's if you want, imagine how far we'd be in Naruto now if it was going a quarter of the speed. So that's what you pay for. Is actually less than that because it's 13 versus 11. So yeah, that's how they're able to get that much content out, is by making it black and white. Yeah, that's the reality. All right, we've been going for quite a while now, so thank you all so much.
It rocks having you guys.
It really does. It really does. It's great seeing you all.
And so some of the ideas about an anime club get together.
Yeah, are we set up for that?
I think we might be able to do something with that.
Okay.
I may need to wiggle some computer screens around to.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop broadcast. So please do not leave the chat room just yet. We're going to experiment a little bit with some anime viewing. We tried this, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so we're going to try it again now in a slightly different format and move forward from there. Well, Megazone, now is your time to ask your question. We're going to leave here in just a few minutes. And then we will pop back into the chat room and give you guys the URL for this little experiment. But before then, Megazone, ask your question. Better be a good one. The last one. Nah, it doesn't have to be
question.
Quick, doesn't have to be.
I'm typing as fast as I can. Stop. Quick, somebody else ask him a question in the meantime.
Exactly.
After Stream Club. Yeah, I could probably jump over onto that one and open it up and see what I'm doing, or if you want to do it on yours, either one. Let's see. I think we were able to do it on yours if you want to do it on yours. Or, because you've got the audio and video hooked up, so we could probably do that.
Okay. I'm waiting for the question, not seeing it. Crazy Boy, yes. We've been talking about the OVA here. That's the Quack Cafe we've seen and we're talking about. All right. So you're asking about the Japanese placement tests, that kind of stuff. Thank you, Raven. You guys are the best too. And yes, people generally stay at companies for a long time in Japan. It's the idea of the Japanese lifetime employment.
Yeah, trying to determine what you're going to do with the rest of your life happens much earlier.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I mean, I've got a career, but I could always see what else is. Become a mangaka.
Yeah, there we go.
Just need to become a little bit more wealthy. Maybe Polygon.
So Mega is saying, in the gaming industry, many developers are leaving, like in Capcom and Konami. Do you see that in other industries? Yes. I'm not familiar with exactly how they're leaving in the gaming industry. If it's just, is it all the employees leaving? Is it just the frontline employees? Is it managers and directors leaving? And where are they going would be the big question.
Is that a streamlining, or because the industry has gotten to the point where a lot of things can be routinized and it's not as much of a venture?
Yeah.
Or is it, and would that be industry wide or just company per company basis? That's
the broader. The answer to the broader question is yes. That is certainly less true. That people stay in the same company for 30 years in Japan and kind of retire there. This is a major problem. Is probably the wrong word. But there's a major change in things because people don't really want to deal with the idea that it's much more comfortable to go to a company and know that's where I'm going to be. And to be fair and to be clear, that doesn't mean you're doing the same job for 30 years. It means you're working for the same company. So you go to work for Toyota, you'll have a job. They'll find work for you to do for 30 years. And maybe you can work your way up, maybe you don't, whatever. But that's kind of the idea there. The other side of that coin is that it makes it a lot harder for you to do what you want if that's not what the company wants you to do. So that is changing slowly in Japan. I think it's a little too early to say anything definitively one way or the other about how big or how bad that is, but we are certainly seeing that shift. In fact, the anime industry was one of the first to demonstrate that. As folks left the anime industry, oddly, for the video game industry back in the late 90s and early 2000s, because that's where the money was. So video gamers see, making their own smaller company. That happens a lot in anime in general. So I think that is a normal pattern, that folks will leave a studio to form their own studio in anime. That happens more or less all the time. So I think that's a standard pattern for anime. It happens somewhat in Japan, and again, a little more often now than it did in the past. But it's such a long thing. It's such a long form change that it's hard to see the big effect. We'll see. All right, so we're going to again stop broadcasting, but stick around for just a few minutes in the chat room. We will generate a link and post it in there, and we will hopefully see you there. Where we're going to try watching a little anime and talk about some anime, and we will see what happens. There'll be a chat room in there too that we can continue the conversation with. So we hope to see you in a little bit. Thank you all very much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.